Hey everybody, it's DevStro here, and I just wanted to do a brief little how-to video about the pin vise and pinning miniatures. Conversations I've had with people, I've come to the conclusion that not a lot of people are familiar with pinning. If you are, you can go ahead and move along and go read up on some 8th edition fantasy rumors or something like that, or you can stay and watch. I wasn't really taught this by anyone. I just sort of figured it out for myself, went out and bought a pin vise and just started doing some experiments. So let's get you started at the beginning. This is a pin vise here. I've got two different kinds. They're really very similar. The idea is that there's a chuck here. This is the part that'll hold a very small drill bit, and then there's this spinny knob on the back. What that allows you to do is put pressure on it and still be able to spin this part as you drill into your miniature. These come apart. This one, I think, is the idea is that you can store drill bits back here, maybe, I'm not sure. And then up in the front part here where the chuck is, you usually have two different sizes to accommodate different diameter drill bits. There's the smaller one, and then there's the larger one. And then you would slide the bit in, and then as you screw this down, it'll clamp down on it, holding it in place. This is the newer one that GW makes. I'm not really that fond of it. This is my old trusty standby, the first one I ever had, and the one I continue to use. And I think this might have been the GW one at one time. This one has actually 4 different size chucks. There's 2 on this end, and then there's 2 that are down here. When I put my bit in, I like to put the drill bit in so that these are the threads on the bit, sliding them in the chuck so that the chuck's teeth are going to clamp down right where they start. I've found that if I have a lot of the drill bit exposed, which you don't really need because you're not going that deep into the miniature, that it can lead to some various broken drill bits. The drill bits come in these neat little containers, and they've come with the pin vices when I bought them. I'm sure you could probably get these separately. Now, the one pin vise came with different sized bits, and as you can see, this, like, here's a broken off guy. This one's broken off. I think this one is the tip of it is pinning together my Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. I just left it in there and glued it in place. So I don't really use the bigger ones too much. But then the newer pin vise, I believe, came with all the same size drill bit. These are all the same diameter, and I only try and use one at a time. And when I'm not using this, I store it in here, and I put it in oriented differently so I know which one I'm currently using. Oops. Anyway, and then the idea is that you make a hole in the miniature, and then you can put some sort of a metal rod in it. I don't use anything fancy. I use paper clips, a bigger gauge for the bigger ones and a smaller gauge for the smaller ones. And you use it on a miniature that isn't going to stay together too well. If you have 2 flat surfaces that meet and there's not a lot of ridges or detail to help hold them together, pinning can help. For my example today, I've got this Beast Lord guy here, Beast Shaman, and I think it'd be nice. This is his hand with a staff. This is pretty big on its own, and the idea is that it's glued on here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin that in place. I've got a flat surface here and a flat surface here. So how you start is you get your pin vise and you get your place where you want to be. I just kind of eyeball how to get started. I'm going to see if I can do this on the camera. Try and get it centered where you want it to be, and then try and go in perpendicular to the surface that you're going into, and then just start to go in. The scraps that you're drilling should come out. Sometimes they'll get stuck in the drill, so it's good to pull the drill out and maybe clean it off and then go back in for a fresh start. And once you start to get in a little bit, you want to look around. This is a pretty thick arm. Sometimes when you're going into smaller things like banner poles, you want to look around and make sure you're not distorting the surface. It does happen frequently. If the drill bit ever sticks, I find that's a warning sign that my drill bit is about to break. So I try and back. All right. And then you can sort of gauge how deep you are, putting it in, putting your thumb up against it, and then getting out. So my hole's that deep right now. I might want to have it a little bit deeper. Alright, so there. Now I've got a hole. So what I need to do is get a hole that's going to match up on this side. Now there's different ways of doing this. What I read about what was recommended is you put your pin in here, fix it in this hole, and then snip it off, and then put a little dab of paint and then line this up where you want it to be, and then the paint will show you where to go. That never really worked out too well for me, so let me show you what I do. Well, I always trim off more than you think you need, because you can always go back in later and trim off the excess. I take my flush cut clippers, but I don't clip it flush here. I flip it around, and I'm going to leave a nice little point on what it is, the excess side of the pin. Hold this, otherwise it'll fly across the room when you clip it. Alright, so now I've got a nice little nub there. That's probably a little longer than it needs to be. And then what I like to do is get it lined up and then use the sharp point to sort of score a little place where I think it's going to be. And then I've got that scored in there. And then I can use that as a guide for drilling the other hole. I'm going to give it a dry fit. Got my little tweezers. Pick this up here. Let me spin the sharp edge around. If I would have been thinking right, you can put a sharp edge on each side, and then I'll sort of kind of push that down in, get it in there, try her out here, get it in the hole, and it slides down, and I'm a little too long. No worries. You want to watch this. This thing will go sailing at light speed across the room sometimes. You want to be careful. Oh yeah, okay, that's gonna be good. So then I'm gonna hit it with some glue. Ah! Okay, get some of my glue on this surface. Apply some pressure. Make sure there's no excess glue seeping out on me. A little bit right there. I'm gonna have to green stuff that gap a little bit, but there we go. It's nice and secure there for me. What else can you do with this? You can. What I also use the pin vise for sometimes is if you play 40K, so you got these guys with these guns, but then the guns just have a flush part here. You can paint a black circle if you want. Or, this is what I use the bigger bits for a lot of times, is you can drill out their gun barrels. These you really want to make sure you get them centered, otherwise they look a bit wonky. Maybe for an orc that's okay. Drill out bolters, things like that. So pull it out. Yeah, this one I think a bigger one might look more appropriate, but I got a good pilot hole started there, and I can switch out to a bigger drill bit. And it's got some holes in the barrel instead of just being a flush ending. So there you go. This is a pin vise. Don't be afraid. Go out and get one and start using it. You'll be amazed at the things you can do, making your existing model sturdier. If you're going to be doing some converting work, one of these is probably a must-have next to the bone saw. So I hope that you learned something. If there's any tips or tricks, you've been doing this for a while and you want to share, go ahead and feel free and post it. I'm always wanting to learn more things about this hobby. Thanks for watching.